Okay, welcome back. This is part 2 Q&A combo Western Hunting Summit 2023. Ryan and I'll keep this intro short, but Ryan, tell me what you got out of this Q&A.
Out of the Q&A?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the Q&A comes on day 4, last day. Everybody's taken off, and it's the last thing that we do right before lunch. And I don't know, both Q&As were very unique, comparable to like years past. So we didn't get a whole lot of hunting questions. We got more, how would you
Lifestyle,
life
motivation,
choices, motivation.
how do you juggle
Mm-hmm.
your, your emotional responsibilities with what you're really passionate about?
Yeah, maybe getting out of a rut and doing kind of what we did and going to a new place, which can be a little scary. Those kind of questions. So it was really unique, but I don't know. There was a lot to this last Q&A session on the second event. We had some great stories told. One of the gentlemen gave a pretty heartfelt story to what he had been through, and you'll hear that in this podcast. And so that was pretty good. And some of the presenters did as well. So very unique. We never really know how these are going to go. And these were definitely 2 of my favorites from all the summits we've put on over the years.
Yeah, I mean, this is like right up my alley. I love this stuff, but I also, sometimes when you're in these, you forget everything that was talked about. And then when you watch it back, there's so many good little pearls in here. Dr. Corey gives some amazing, Mark does, Brian Barney, Sam Davis, you do, Brad's super emotional. Again, I think he's an antihistamine.
I think he was drugged up.
We're all drugged on antihistamine. I said a few things, but it just when you listen back a few times, you just get so many little pearls about how to live your life. Not just hunting, but how to. And I mean, Joel gives some powerful ones in here.
Oh, I love Joel's.
Joel's are always just like direct.
Joel doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Nothing.
He tells it like he thinks it.
Yeah.
And I respect the heck out of it. I love it when Joel just he gives the gold.
Yeah, my favorite might be, if it's not that, just pitch it.
Pitch it.
Yeah, you'll know what I'm talking about. So just real quick before we let you go to this podcast, the gentleman Ryan was talking about, his name's Casey. And this year, our friend Terry has passed away from a cardiac event. He was 60 years old. He left behind his family. He was training for a triathlon, I think, when he had a heart attack. He was running. And so we felt compelled to do something for his family, and Ryan and I just kept feeling like, what are we going to do? What can we do? And Terry had just started this Hunt and Heart Instagram page, and he was looking to work with youth in Idaho and about mentorship around hunting and the outdoors and all that. And that was a big part of his life, his daughters and his son. He really did a lot with them with that. So we became friends with Miranda, his daughter. And when he passed, we were talking with her and through the family, vicariously through her. And she, was keeping us up to date. And I just had this feeling like we needed to do something for Terry's memory. So you and I decided that we were going to do a Terry Hess Award at one of the summits, and we were going to watch attendees, and we were going to decide.
Just pay attention, like who might be in that ilk of a Terry Hess fella.
Whatever, like were they motivated? Were they asking lots of questions? Like if Ish had come back, Ishmael the first year, if you don't know Ishmael, he was our youngest attendee. He'd never hunted, and he asked questions nonstop. In between presentations, he asked questions. He never stopped learning, and everybody came to love Ish. So, Ish would have been the recipient of this award, somebody like Ish. We were just looking for somebody with that spirit and that willingness to learn. So Casey shares his story in here, and we actually had both noticed Casey at the buffalo. We broke a buffalo down at this one, which was new for us, and he was very interested. He was helping and not asked to help.
He was willing to dive right in on
He was
everything. He
diving
asked
right
a
in.
ton of questions. He came early.
Yeah.
He was in on everything. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah. And then he had a conversation with me privately one day about his life and some traumas, and then how he had changed his life and he had changed his health. And then he shared, and still even then you and I were kind of like, I don't know if we should give it away. Maybe there's nobody, it's hard with us because we're real busy. It's hard to sometimes navigate everybody in the crowd. And we thought maybe not this year, maybe next year. And then Casey in this podcast shares his story. And I just knew, like, this is the guy we need to give it to once he told his story, because we didn't even know his full story until the Q&A. And it was just like, okay, this is a person. It was like you and I just said, yep, this is a person. And what's really interesting is I shared the video. There will be a YouTube video of the giveaway on our YouTube channel. If you want to go there, Stealthy Hunter, you can watch this giveaway, this gift we gave to Casey. I shared this with his family, and his daughter sent me the text stream of the family after they had watched the Q&A and after they'd watched the video of us giving him the necklace. Was his wife said, I knew the minute Casey started telling his story that your dad picked him. And then the son said, yes, it gave me chills. And then the other daughter, they were all like in agreement that what happened in that moment, they felt like they could feel Terry. And I guess Terry grew up in a very traumatic childhood as well. And of course, we didn't know that. I didn't know Terry's story, but Miranda shared with me that his life was very similar to what Casey shared about his life. And so it felt very appropriate that he got this gift. Mm-hmm. So we ended up giving him a necklace that was silversmithed, was one of your bear claws from one of your bears. Mm-hmm. Right. And the guy that silversmithed these necklaces with the bear claw. Yeah. What's his name?
Gentleman named Alan Berg, Traveling Timbers on Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
And Traveling Timbers, he makes some incredible pieces. Yeah. And so I sent him some claws, and yeah, I got those made, and he did great work. So yeah.
So we gave one of those as the Terry Hess Award, and so that's another reason why this Q&A became very meaningful, because we had no idea going into this Q&A that Casey was going to share what he did, and it totally allowed us to be able to give this, and his family feels like it was a complete appropriate choice, even though they weren't there. So that was really cool. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're going to let you listen to this podcast now. Like I said, if you want to also watch this on YouTube, you can go to our YouTube channel. There will also at some point be the video of Casey as well in the giveaway. And yeah, so it was a great month. We're back now and back to our lives, and hunting season starts soon. So hope everybody's having a great July, enjoying the summer, and all right, enjoy this podcast. Bye. Welcome back to the Hunt Harvest Health Podcast. This is Dr. Hillary Lampers, and I am here with all these guys at the Western Hunting Summit combo event. This is our second event for this year, and we are doing the Q&A. I'm just going to let everybody introduce themselves really quick, so maybe we will start on this end.
I am Brad Hunt. I am a co-host on the Gritty Podcast, Gritty Films, and the secretary for Brian Cole.
All right, Ryan Lampers, the guy that doesn't talk as much as the rest of the guys on this panel.
Stealthy Hunter.
Yep, Stealthy Hunter.
Hi, and I'm Ryan's wife, who does all the talking. Dr. Hillary Lampers, Stealthy Hunter, Get Stealthy Events, and we are the co-founders of this. Well, we're the founders of this event, but we could not do any of this event without every single person on this panel. So this is really everybody's event.
All right, Sam Davis, bow hunter. Love to bow hunt, live to bow hunt, and yeah, that's me out of Wyoming.
I'm Brian Barney, bow hunter as well. Eastman's Elevated is the podcast, and yeah, happy to be here with you guys.
I'm Brady Miller. I'm the guy that's absolutely addicted to mule deer hunting only. Work for Go Hunt. I'm the head of editorial over there, all things written.
Brian Call. I do the Gritty podcast, Gritty Films, like hunting, conservation.
Joel Turner with Shot IQ, shotiq.com, and the Turner Method.
Mark Livesay, Treeline Academy, Treeline Pursuits, and I'm really the slave behind this event. I'm Ryan's a little minion. He bosses around before you guys all get here.
Dr. Kaare Tingelstad, I'm the backcountry medical and remote expedition medical educator.
All right. So this is your chance to ask questions. Don't be shy. We've answered lots of different types of questions. So if you guys and gals have any questions that you want to ask, please, this is the time to do it.
All right. Well, I'll start.
Say your name.
I'm Josh from Minnesota. I've been following just about every one of you guys. I just met Sam this week, and I just met Corey this week. Otherwise, I'm pretty familiar with everybody. Just curious how you guys got started on the summit. What sparked that idea, and how did that get rolling? And then how have you it's evolved. Obviously, it's changing locations. How do you go about that? How do you make these connections?
Oh, how did we start this, babe?
Ryan's got to talk.
I guess I'll go with kind of where the idea came from, and I've said this before, probably on podcasts, but so Hill and I got to be a part of this really cool event back in the day. I don't remember how many years ago, probably 2016, I think it was.
Years ago, yeah.
And it's called Train to Hunt. Some of you have probably heard of Train to Hunt. A guy named Kenton Claremont started it. And it was a place where hunters could go do Spartan race type events, shooting, running, exercise, all the things, like really hard things where in the end, after the 2-3 day event, depending on what it was, everybody had a ton of respect for everybody else. And, you hear the shared suffering was the phrase back then, and it's cliche, but it's very true. We realized that anybody who had taken part of that event, they all kind of were connected in a way. And we stayed in contact with each other, and we had this really cool community. And so Hill and I, over the years, we thought, man, that'd be cool. We actually held our own Train to Hunt event out on some property in Washington State when we lived there. And we met so many good folks through that we are still in contact with, that we kind of wanted to take on something like that and do it ourselves. And that's kind of what spawned the Western Hunting Summit.
Yeah, and I would just second that with Ryan. I think, and he said this on many podcasts and stuff, is that mentorship has kind of become more important as we get older. You can do a lot of things and have a lot of experience, but as you get to a certain age, it's like if you don't share it, it's just going to die with you. So I think that Ryan felt really called to help other people that maybe hadn't had as much mentorship in their life. And I think that one of the most valuable things we've gotten out of this is meeting people of all ages, really, that just didn't know where to start, and they didn't know how to do even the most simple things, and they didn't feel like they had a community. I do feel like that's one of the biggest things that people will say to us that come to this, is that they like coming because they feel like all of a sudden they have a community of like-minded people. Because maybe they live somewhere where they don't have that, they don't feel that, they don't have neighbors that like to do the same thing, that kind of stuff. So that's been beneficial. The evolution of the ranches is really the first two we did just in Bozeman, and did daily hikes and stuff. And then we got the biggest response when we would ask people what they wanted more of, and everybody responded that they wanted to spend more time together and they wanted to have meals together. And so the first one that we did in 2021 was in the Crazies, and that was our first all-inclusive, and that's where everybody camped. It was just like this. And every year we get an awesome ranch and we think, okay, we're going to have it here every year. And every year the landowner either changes their mind or we change our mind. And we do have a very large return rate. And we've noticed that we like having it at a different ranch because it gives you guys something different to do. Because if we had it if we had it here every year, which this is a great ranch and there's tons to explore, as you see when you went out there in the breaks, but it just offers some different terrain and different animals and that kind of stuff. So I think that's been the evolution of it. Also, we, like I said when in the introduction, is that there's core people here that, this is our business per se, but I mean, you got to find a really good group of people that are willing to help and to take weeks out of a month. Last year, it was almost a month. This year, we're only doing 2. So it's like 2 weeks. But by the time the guys come set up these courses and they get that first week ready, they were here a week. So, and then it's weeks of preparation before that. So, I mean, these guys, especially Mark and Amy.
Just Mark.
Just Mark.
Don't give him credit, Hill. You know what he does.
Kind of a one-man show.
No, but like if you want to put something on like this, and we really got lucky falling into Mark, because Mark's had an event business. Him and Amy have had an event business for years. And I mean, it's kind of funny, and tell me if I'm talking too much. You can shut me up, guys. Sorry. But the first one we ever did at the Crazies was our first all-inclusive. And I don't run an event business. I was just like, I'll just go to Costco and buy a bunch of food and feed everybody. And we had that first weekend, and Amy was like helping. She just got corralled to come and help. We didn't even at that time. She was just like, you want me to help? Like the women come, they're always like, can I do something? Can I help? And sure, you want to help? And by the end of the weekend, Amy was like, you need serious help. Like, you don't even know how much food you're feeding people. We're worrying, are we going to run out? And that event was like this event. We were out in the middle of the Crazies. I mean, it was a 2.5 hour drive to go get decent food. So she sat me down the day after, like this afternoon, and she wrote out how many people, how many pounds of meat each guy eats, how much. And she gave these guys a shopping list, and they went to Costco for the next 2 weeks. And she literally saved our life because she knew how to do that. And then Mark just knows, he's a businessman with events. So he knows how to run this, like tents and just all these things. Ryan and I just had this idea, but there's so many little things that go into doing this, and then making sure you guys are all taken care of. I mean, down to the toilets, down to the toilet paper, down to the the signs on the road. I mean, there's so much. So we could not do this without a really solid group of friends. And that is probably for us the most important piece of it. And so did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So I'm Chris from Washington. My question is, you guys talk a lot about the mental game when it comes to hunting. It's something that I've struggled with trying to do some solo stuff. I think a lot of it has to do with my physical fitness, but what did you guys do to build your mental toughness, and how much of your physical fitness you think attributes to that mental toughness?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Mark, you're an expert on mental toughness because you're old and fat and you still do all the things we do.
I don't even know where to start with that, but I will tell a quick story. When Brian and Ryan first asked me, I'm not going to get into all the details, but when they first asked me to go on a hunt with them, right? I mean, what an honor, right? To go. We've been friends for a little while, but they never even considered that I would go on a hunt. It was really came down that I owned llamas is what it was. Ryan's getting old. They needed some llamas. So here comes Mark. But for me, I knew that was going to be rough. I knew what I was getting into. So that first year I did the 75 hard to get ready for that hunt. But even with that, I knew that I was not going to be, but guys, you just got to put yourself in the position. So I decided I'm just going to put myself in the position, and whatever it took, I'm just going to do it. So my biggest advice to you guys is if you're going to choose your hunt partner, choose someone that's more badass than you are. Because you always rise to the person that's next to you. If you're with a person that's lesser than you, you're going to lower yourself to them. Not to be derogatory, but pick a partner that's going to take you to the next level, not that's one that's going to hold you to a lower level. I talk about this when limitations in my course about group dynamics. Like, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? Everybody knows that, right? So when you plan your hunts, it's got to be around the weak link. So really, you need to be the weak link. If you want to be the best you can be, you need to start out as the weak link. When I did triathlons, I was I'm not say great, but really good cyclist. Phil and I were talking about it. My first 5 Ironmans were terrible because all I did was bike, because I love biking. I'm good at biking. But once I said, quit biking, start running, start swimming, we were talking about times, I dropped 2 hours off my Ironman time by biking half of what I was biking because I started running more. I started doing the thing. So pick your partners that push you. Don't pick some that hold you back, or at least equal, right? And so anyway, with these guys, it's moved me to a new level. I hate to give them credit, but I'm working out harder. When I'm solo, it's a special mindset solo, right? Once you have the talent to push, then you can do it. But if you don't, solo guy, I talked to a man, I'm so mad that I left early. I'm so mad that I went home 2 days early. It can be a real hunt killer solo unless you got it. Got it up here first. So I know it's a little long-winded, but pick your partners that push you.
Joel, you deal with a lot of mental control. What do you think?
So the mental game equation is knowing when, where, and how to direct your conscious mind into a specific task at a specific moment, right? So it happens with diet. It happens with physical fitness. There's a mental game to everything that we do. There's a moment of truth in everything that we do. Practice making decisions that cause your body impact. Hard things like a cold plunge every day for 3.5 to 5 minutes, right? Stay in there till the pain sets in. Just whatever you can do. Work out hard, your diet, it's all a mental game. So understanding how to put your mind in those places. And then when you get out in the woods, it's pretty easy because you don't have to take a cold plunge every day, right? But that's what I do as far as just practice making decisions. And the hardest decision that you can make is controlling a movement that causes your body impact. Shooting is the highest level of concentration that there is, precision shooting. So you gain control of that first, and then gaining control of these other things in your life becomes much easier, believe it or not.
Years ago, I was listening to a podcast where Jocko Willink was on there, and he said he read this article by these scientists that said self-control and discipline is finite, and once you run out of it, the wheels fall off, and you're just a victim of what you are. And then he read that, and then he said, I'm here to tell you that all of that is complete garbage, and it's a lie. Discipline begets discipline. The more you pick something like, okay, I'm just going to make my bed every morning. Okay, now I'm going to do this. You pick pretty easy things, I think, in the beginning that you know you can't fail at, and you execute. And you add more to that and more to that. The cold plunge, my brother did the Wim Hof thing for, I don't know, a year. And he'd go and he'd get in this cold pond, and that's a mental game every time you had to get in there. Like every day, every time you got in, it sucked. And did it get easier? Yeah, because over time you start to develop that mental toughness. So I always think, your toughness comes from picking little things that are a little bit difficult, mastering those and adding something else to it. If it's getting up at a certain time, making your bed without fail, like little things. And from there, you can build up from that. Physical fitness, you asked, how much does my physical fitness impact my mental toughness? I don't know. I think they're kind of like woven together, you can be, certainly I think mental toughness is, can transcend your physical capability, your physical fitness, for sure. We've seen it like Mark does it. But certainly the fitter you are, the more likely you are to have that mental toughness too. So I don't know. I just think discipline begets discipline. You build on top of it each time. Pick easy wins you can't fail at. First, like maybe it's every day I'm going to do I'm going to go to the gym. I'm just going to show up at the CrossFit gym. Or maybe that's not your thing. It's like every day I'm going to do 5 squats on the rack, no matter what. You just pick that thing and you just do it. And then you pick something else, something else, something else until you have some toughness that you didn't know you had before.
Going down the line. Nice.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, you guys hear me talk a lot about that, the mental game in hunting. I do think it's everything to me. Like literally, I think a lot of people just kind of give up. But, you know, I'm a person who's comfortable in the backcountry a lot. And I think it kind of stems from just like taking those slow moments, going out there for a day and just trying to go climb up a mountain, try to survive that night. Like that'll build a lot of mental toughness. Next time, do it 2 days, maybe go a little bit further, do something different and difficult all the time to put yourself in a good position. I think it's like Michael Jordan said this quote, but like I've failed over and over again in life, and that's why you succeed. Like those moments when you feel like you're failing on a mountain hike and you just want to quit. You push through that. Don't want to, you might think you're stopping and not going to the top, but next time you're going to go to the top. You're going to start succeeding more and more, getting more comfortable being uncomfortable. And then you'll be able to put yourself in those situations where you're just like, I know how to do this. All those times I kept going out there, going further, getting into some grizzly country, being comfortable doing that. I think that just builds your mental game to the point where you know everything you do out there, like you'll be able to succeed and survive and also still pursue an animal at the same time to give you more and more confidence.
Yeah, I think, well, you guys heard when I talked like mental toughness. It all starts and ends with your mind. Like it's so important to wrap your mind around it. But mental toughness is slippery. It's like really tough to obtain. So it's doing difficult things, and you're building momentum. You're building habits, whether they're good or whether they're bad, all the time. Every day you're building habits. So it's a matter of these long-term goals meaning enough to you that your short-term decisions reflect your end goal. So it's like every day you're faced with what to eat for lunch. Do I stop at a drive-through or do I prep my lunch and bring it with me? That's one of those decisions that affects your long-term goal. As you start to build this momentum, as you start to get comfortable with the uncomfortable or put yourself in these difficult decisions and make it through, you add layers of this mental toughness on. Getting your workout every day is discipline to make yourself do it. Making yourself do it is tough. Like there's been times where I've sat in my truck before I lace up my shoes and I put off going in a run in the rain because it looks uncomfortable. It doesn't seem like fun. But in the end, I lace up my shoes and I go for it. And the longer I do that, the easier I get now that I know I'm getting out of my truck. I know I'm going for a run. So why put off the inevitable? Let's just get out now and lace them up and go for it. And so you start to build this discipline. You start to build this momentum, start to build these good habits in this positive direction. And then you just keep with it. So I think I realized early on how important it was to me. And I loved how Brian said it's interwoven with your mental toughness is your physical fitness. Like knowing that my body's capable of getting a buck out of the backcountry or that I'm capable of doing these miles. I have confidence in myself and in my body. And as you start to do these difficult things, you start to realize what you're really capable of and then start to push the threshold even further, And so I also find that when I'm in good shape, I'm not as worn down at the end of the day. Like when I get a good night's sleep, I recover and feel like a brand new human in the morning. So my recovery time's less. And I also notice that I have a better positive mental outlook on everything I'm doing. So if I'm not finding deer, I'm sitting there theorizing of where I am going to find deer. I'm not thinking about giving up or going home. And so always having this positive outlook on everything that's happening and the challenges and just picking myself up and getting back after it. And, I've quit early before, and the regret of quitting early is far more to live that for the entire year than to grind out 2 more days. So I've just learned those hard lessons. And through that, I've developed my mental toughness, physical fitness, and it's the reason why I arrow every animal I arrow.
For me, I would say you're hearing it right here. There's a lot of just boils down to consistency in life. For me, it's get up every single morning and I'm going to go to the gym. And like Barney said, you strap up your shoes and you're watching it rain outside and you don't want to. And nobody knows if you do it. Nobody knows if I go to the gym or not. It's all accountable on me. And that's the same thing in the backcountry. I could tell someone I hiked 10 miles. I might have done a mile camped out. I could have camped at my truck. It's on you. Everything's because you asked about solo hunting, being in shape, and the mental game. So the consistency for me is just every single day. I'm going to get up at 4:00 in the morning. I'm going to get my workout in. I want to every day. I mean, it takes a little motivation to get there. Some days you love it, but there's not a better feeling than I'm at 6:00 and I'm done. That's like boom. There's a win. Like that's a huge win. And so for me, it just builds and it builds and it builds. And from that, when that consistency is rolling, then you become dedication. Because when you start seeing the results. When you start seeing you get cut, I mean, like I just think of it in a workout sense for me. When you start seeing the results from a gym, because you're sore, if someone like hasn't worked out, I don't like when people say I didn't get in shape for hunting season. It's like, well, don't get out of shape. You came out of September probably in pretty good shape. Roll with it now. You got momentum. Now you got a 6-pack. Your legs are jacked. Like keep it rolling. And that's the thing is like don't get out of shape. Like age, everybody says age, my metabolism's slowing down, all this. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I watch 70-year-old ranchers that work hard every single day. All they've done is eat eggs, bacon, potatoes their whole life, but they work every single day from daylight to dark, and they're doing it till they're 80, 85 years old, and they don't know any different. They just worked hard, stayed consistent their whole life. They had to work. Nothing comes easy, and consistency is the key. And I think if you can take that, that's what I do. I don't have any platforms or anything. I love to hunt, and I know the one way to kill is you got to be consistent. And there's times where I got a little girl at home, I got a wife at home. There's a lot of times you're sitting on the ridge, you're like, damn, like it could be real nice sitting on the couch right now. It'd be real nice to be home with them. I know what they're doing. They're eating dinner. My wife's drinking coffee this morning, watching the news. Like that sounds real comfortable. That's not how you kill bucks. December rolls around, it's snowing outside, and you cut it early in September. You're going to be real mad at yourself that you walked out of there. So I know you've heard all of this before, but for me, it's just consistency creates dedication. And once you see those results, that's when dedication starts. People always say, I'm going to dedicate myself to doing something. It's got to start somewhere first. You got to build that. When you start seeing those results, then you create consistency on top of it.
I'm just going to make a quick note because my profession, and Dr. Corey can probably back me up on this, but unfortunately, a lot of people wait to make changes in their life until they get some sort of horrible news, whether it's a diagnosis or whatnot, or you can't do anything, right? Like you got diabetes now and you're going to lose your foot or something, right? And at that point, it's a little too late maybe to get your foot back. You can still make changes. But I think our human nature and the way our brain works is that sometimes we get really caught up in what we don't have and what we're not doing and the negativity of that. And I see it in a lot of patients and the self-talk that you don't actually have any power over this, like everything has power over you. And that's a very, very common narrative. And I think we've all been through that at times in our life. Like we feel like there's nothing that, everything is against us. And in some cases it may be because we all come from different places and we all have different educations about things. But the truth is that it's pretty miraculous that when you wake up in the morning, your eyes open. And you have the choice to do something. And it's very cliche, as Ryan always says. But when you're in the medical profession, you see it. And the truth is, like, I can't tell a patient to do anything. I'm a facilitator. If you can't make the mental change to do it, if you don't feel that you're valuable enough to make those changes, or maybe you don't, other people say, well, I don't have anybody in my life that makes me feel good. Nobody's cheering me on. That's what does anybody else do for you? Like they can cheer you on, but you still have to have the mental fortitude to do it. And a lot of our culture is being driven by this negative narrative that you don't have any control over your life and you should just give in to the powers that be. And the truth is you have all the power. And I think that's the mental game, is accepting that you actually have so many choices that you can make to positively affect your life, whether that's killing big buck or losing weight or having that mental fortitude. I mean, life is just hard in a lot of ways and you can't get around it. And life is also now very simple, which I think makes people lazy. So I don't know, Corey, if you...
Yeah, I would say don't outsource your well-being. I mean, your mind's an incredible thing. And there's nobody that I've met here that can't go out and solo hunt. But you got to believe you can do it. And what I've tried to teach is, don't rely on this hospital and an emergency department to tell you whether or not you can continue your hunt. there's some basic things that you can do to assess your situation. And I think that's empowering. I mean, all these things that you've learned the past few days give you one more tool in your toolbox. And I think the more tools you have, the more confident you start to feel. And then you can start to say, hey, my mind can use all these tools and I can rely on myself. Being self-reliant, there's no place better to hone those skills than being out by yourself. I think it's pretty cool.
I was fortunate to meet your daughter last year and your daughter this year. Two daughters, Izzy and Ellie. Mm-hmm. Ellie went out on this whole hike with us, comes back, and then had to smash a whole bunch more miles afterward and run all these miles. Now, what is it that got your daughters this way, that they put in work and they have that discipline and that's a mental grind? That's mental toughness combined with their fitness. What is it?
When Kim and I met, we were living in Minnesota at the time, so our wilderness was the Boundary Waters, and we met in college and we started canoe camping and going further and further into the Boundary Waters canoe area and stuff like that, and getting longer and longer trips. And when it came time to decide to have a family, we didn't want any of that to change because we'd seen so many of our friends say, okay, well, we're going to hit pause on what we do as a couple and who we are as a couple. We're going to just put that on hold for a little bit, raise these kids up. And we're like, that didn't seem right to us. So Isabel went in a front pack at 2 months old and we did our first wilderness backpacking trip. And I remember we were breaking through these snow bridges and I was stopping on my backpack and on her without, falling through these snow bridges. And people would say, well, really? Is that really good parenting? I don't know. I mean, you'd have to know my daughters.
I'm impressed.
Because I guess what I'm getting at is we had what defined us as a couple and as a team, and we didn't want anything to change that. And we wanted the girls to be doing those things with us as they became adults. And we just figured, well, we're just going to keep living our life. This is what our model is. And I think they just learned that was it. That was what their life was going to look like. Because I've never said, hey, we're going hunting now. Are you ready? It's like, Dad, I got my stuff ready. What are you slowing down for? I mean, come on.
So they were doing hard things from day one.
They did hard things. I mean, I remember lots of hikes, in and out of the backpack, when they could start to walk. Then I switched to the kid frame backpack and I had them done there. And pretty soon, they're walking a half mile and then they're back in the backpack. And then they're running ahead with the dog and they're coming back. And it was just what we did. And I don't know if that was just, we didn't try to do it. It just happened. And I think some of it's you obviously start with a foundation. So, I can't discount the fact that they were just born with determination. But I think then our job is to just kind of encourage each other and kind of garden that soil that you've been given. And I think that's what we can all do at these summits, is that kind of like what Hillary said, our world is trying to pick us off one by one, right? Because we're kind of this weird minority of people who want to be self-sufficient and do these hard things. So when we're out there doing our thing, we start to doubt ourselves, like, well, I don't know if I should do that thing solo, right? But we get in a group like this and we've got people that are like-minded and we can draw that encouragement from each other. And I think that's really important, to use these meetings to affirm what you feel is right for you and your family, and then to take that back to your community and be a model of that. Because I would love everybody to take what you feel now back to your community and start spreading that out, because people need that. And that's what people are missing. And that's why people are ending up in this weird spiral that they're in right now, I think.
You got anything to add, Ryan?
Oh boy, it's all been covered, it seems like. But, I was thinking back, I think a lot of people relate mental toughness in the hunting space to maybe, bebopping off the mountain a little ahead of time. Like they can't keep their mind in the game, so they maybe have left a little before they should. And I think probably everybody up here has done that. I know I have back in the day. In my 20s, I did not have the mind game that I have now. And I think a result, was just, I wanted it so bad. I was so driven to be successful, that it caused me to add another day, like go out for 2 nights solo, add another day, to the point where, you can be comfortable in there for weeks in your own head and not have that kind of that draw pulling you out back to the trailhead, which we used to feel for sure. But I was kind of forced to hunt solo back in the day, and I still wanted to hunt as much as I could, and I had set goals for myself on killing mature animals. But to be able to do that, I just realized like I got to get it together, and so I just need to create this person that can be back there comfortable. And I think if you have like the goal of killing just a giant mule deer, and you want to be as successful as somebody like Brady has, over the years, and you've got this really impressive resume of doing it over and over and consistently. Without the mental game, it's not going to happen. It's just not, whitetail guys obviously are not going to have nearly the mental game as a Brady Miller. This is not going to happen. Right? Can I say that? Yeah. Tree stand hunting just isn't going to cut it. But I think if you grab a mule deer tag out west and you set the goal of killing a real old, mature, crusty, you better have your mental game tight, or it's probably not going to happen. You'll probably end up walking out ahead of when you should have.
Yeah, I mean, just these guys really touched on it, and these guys are some of the toughest dudes out here for sure. I'm privileged to get to hunt with them, but I get asked all the time, and I mentioned on the last Q&A was, what's the transition been between how you hunted, before I was doing stuff with Gritty, and it was like, nothing has changed when it comes to the hunting side of things. I get more days, yes, but what started me was 16 years old, going out on my first solo hunt. It was a one night, and it was hard. And then the next year it was like I went 2-3 days. Ryan touched on it. And what you have to do is just start doing the hard thing. Whatever, like now, I've always been fearful of snakes. Like I hate snakes with a passion. But I've got to the point where now like I'm okay with a snake, and I'll actually grab a snake. Not a live snake, but I've got to the point where I'll touch a dead snake. Still won't grab a live one. But that's just something that you have to do the hard thing. And every time you do the hard thing, and the more you do that hard thing, the easier it becomes. Like with us spending 10, 20, 30 days, we could go 365 days a year on the mountain, comfortable as can be, no worries, as long as we had some food. Like we've been doing it so
and
much.
If they didn't have
so
wives.
Easy. And if we didn't have wives. No, we're grateful for our wives because they allow us to do that and hold the fort down at home. We're blessed to have wives like that. So just doing the hard thing, because, my hardest thing is going to the gym. I don't like the gym. But instead of going to the gym, I'll throw on a 150-pound backpack and I'll go hike 2.25 miles as hard and as fast as I can do that. I may not be throwing iron around, but I'm still doing hard things to keep my body physically fit and my mind to still do that stuff.
I think we have to thank Hillary Lampers, because if there wasn't a Hillary Lampers, we would not know Ryan Lampers.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I was on a hunt with Ryan, I don't remember, maybe a year or 2 years ago, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and there's this cabin out there. Nobody lives there. It's just it's the middle of nowhere. We're hunting, I think it's like day 15 or something. And we have to leave. Like we've tagged out, I think, on a couple, but we still had some tags left, which is hard for Ryan to ever quit if there's still a tag in his pocket. And so he's upset. He's mad because we have to leave. It's like finally it hit that point where he's got no choice, and maybe it was the end of the season. I don't know. But we're walking out, and he looks back at that cabin. He's staring at it, and he goes, "You know what, Brian? If I didn't have a wife and kids, I'd figure out how to live in that cabin, and I would never leave it." So, and I was like, "I believe you." I want to add one thing to what we all said here. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." So when you do think about, like, in my mind, I always kind of have the why. Like, why am I doing this? What do I want? And that, if I cultivate that properly, I have motivation. And sometimes that why is rooted in, like, I want to make a positive difference. Sometimes it's, I want to prove somebody wrong. Sometimes that's a stronger motivation for me. And that's why it's good to have friends that shame you. And then they kind of keep you pushing harder. I remember one time I was about to come home on a solo elk hunt. I think it was my first real long, serious solo hunt, and I missed this bull twice because I had the dial to 70 and I forgot, and I shot, and I did it 2 times in a row before I figured out what was wrong. I only had like 3 days left in the season. It was pouring rain. I stuck it out for like another 4 days and hadn't seen an elk. I was really discouraged, and I texted Ryan about how bad it sucked, and I was kind of thinking about going home because I was probably not going to get anything anyway. And he texted back and said, well, there's nothing to go home to except being a loser. I'm paraphrasing, but it's kind of what he said. So I was like, well, hell, I ain't going home. And then I shot my best solo bull, my first solo bull. And you need somebody out there, if you can get that person, to really pressure you and help you along. That certainly is huge. But have a why. Question.
This question is for Ryan, the man that talks so much. I'm TJ V Hill I'm from Idaho. When I went to the Crazies with you a couple years ago, there was a dozen or so of us, and we had, 8, maybe a dozen glassing sessions. And it seemed like every time you were spotting those critters every time, the first time, and there's 12 of us on the mountain. And I'm just curious, other than the obvious of patience, what is it? And I think I talked to Grady about this and maybe a few of you, but what's a couple of the key things that you do that make you so good at what you do at that?
At the glassing? Well, that's a good question. I don't even know if I can answer that question, honestly.
I can answer that.
Experience.
But it is. It's, I think competition, number one. Me and Brian have talked about that. We're always in competition for spotting animals. And we've coined this, ye who spots them, gots them, right? So when you're around other people, you're doing anything and everything that you can to try to spot the animal first. So, you're first taking a glance at the hillside, and then you're just really dialing it in. I don't think it's the glass we use necessarily, but I think it's just that it's competition with the guys that I hunt with, and so far, I mean, with Brian, I can out hike him, so I get to the glassing spot ahead of him. And I have all this time to find these animals. Now with Brad, that's not the case.
More time.
That's why I like to go. You go to that ridge, and I'll go to this. So if I can get there, I can find it. It's just he gets there first a lot of times.
Brad hikes as fast, if not faster than me, so that's not the case anymore. So I have to up my game, and then it just becomes a competition. But I think, like Barney said, experience. We've just done it for so long. You just kind of have a knack for where you should be looking and where you shouldn't be wasting your time, especially for mule deer. And what's that quote you say, Brady? Mule deer hunting isn't a science.
It's not an art. Mule deer hunting is an art and not a science.
Is an art, not a science. And I think that comes from doing it so often for so long. You just kind of get this natural ability to look into the right areas.
I think one of the things that I noticed the first time, because I had hunted with a lot of people, a lot of talented people, but nobody that could spot every animal, like on a hillside. It was uncanny sitting there watching Ryan glass stuff. And I'd be like, where? There's 9 up there? And then I didn't want to say I didn't see the same 9. So I would be like, damn it, I only see 3. Where are these other, 6 deer? And I'd spend 20 minutes trying to find them. And eventually I could find them all, mostly. And then I have to ask Ryan, okay, I found 7. Where's the other 2? And then he'd show me, and he could just look and go, got it. There was a sheer amount of time that I noticed that Ryan just never put the glass down. So from the moment the sun came up to the moment the sun went down, he just never put it down. I'd hunted with guys who glass for a while, chill all day, glass for a while, chill all day. I can't think of how many animals giants, that when we do see a big deer, it's just barely going over a hill, gone. It only probably was up for one moment. You only had that one glimpse. That probably happened to us throughout the week, but we just didn't happen to have our glass in that spot at that very moment. But after 10 days of doing that, we got lucky. We put in the hours and we just barely got that one glimpse. That's all we needed. Now we go and we kill that giant deer. It's time behind the glass. And then as I've tried to compete with Ryan so I can actually shoot something, it's caused me to stay in the glass for long periods just like that. Never put him down. And then all those hours of practice have made me much more talented and skilled at spotting game. And so it's just time behind the glass, and you get better and better and better.
You know, I've watched these guys, Brad, too. You know, guys, there's no downtime. When these guys get to a glassing spot, it's a race to get the packs off. Stealthy pads are out, you're down. There is no chit-chat. And I mean, I know people want to think Lambert's just combing his hair up there and stuff, but it's packs off, pads down, glass up. That fast. And it's competition, but a little bit, but there's no rest. It can be blazing hot, 90 degrees. There's not an animal moving. They're still glassing for that one chance he's going to show himself, right?
Yeah.
Most people are going back to camp. They're glassing in the morning. They're glassing in the evening. They're getting there an hour after daylight. They're like, oh, man, we got to hike back to camp. We got to walk down the trail for a mile. If we head now, we can get to camp at dark. That never happens.
Well, I'll say this too, like, yes, it's a competition always. Like, we're very competitive, but we want to see our partners succeed just as much as we succeed. You know, and if Ryan spots a bear, I spot a bear, maybe Ryan's already tagged out, he spots the bear, guess what? Who's on the list next? Me. You know, we like seeing each other succeed, and we're a team. We bring the films together. Being a team, everybody's success is what we care about most, I think.
Unless it's a wolf.
I want to remind people that
you hear it, you don't get it.
I remind people, if you've seen this film where Team Pedro Gritty were stomping Lampers, and Brady definitely was flagging.
The Hubble telescope wasn't so
He was
great.
getting his butt kicked. And then Brady got a hot streak, and he was seeing everything, and it was starting to catch up. And you'll go through these ebbs and flows, too. It's like Pedro just happened to spot it a millisecond before Ryan, like 6 times in a row. And it was really pissing Ryan off. It was really fun to watch because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I noticed
That's a good question.
the other day we were out here, Mark and myself. We're out there just glassing for animals, sheep and elk, and he pulled one over on me. He raced out there and got his glass up before I could even get my glass up, and he saw this great bull and he laid claim to it already. So, yeah.
No, we started the exact same moment.
No.
And
I may not remember correctly, but I remember the very first time Ryan and I, it was like 2021 or something, Ryan and I hunted together for the first time, like just us. And we got to the glass now, and I feel like there was a conversation between Ryan and Brian at the end of it, and Ryan's like, I don't know if I like Brad. And so I'm like asking Brian, like, well, why? And he's like, well, he beats me or is right behind me to the top of the mountain. And he's like, most guys don't do that. So,
glassing advantages.
Yep.
Faded.
But it's fun.
Good question.
Casey from Washington. So I'm 40, just started hunting. I guess you guys talk about mentorship and you hold these things. And what my question is, hunting has saved me or just helped me get through some of the hardest times just recently in my life. So, and I can go into that, but it's like, what does it mean to some of you guys beyond food or antlers or anything else? Like some deeper dive into, it seems to be this like spiritual thing for me almost. So I'm kind of curious. What do you say to a guy like me? You know, what does it mean above everything else?
I mean, hunting has been in our DNA since the time of man. And with all the busyness and stuff, and you go spend a few days out there, you learn to find yourself again, where you get the rush of people, the city, There's just something about the quietness that really will bring you back. And then it's obviously better when you have people you can do that with as well. But it just, I don't know. I think there's something primal about it that really brings us back to our forefathers and, you know, how they taught us, our dads. Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone on the panel who probably answer better than Brian, Barney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the passion.
Yep.
It's to have something you love with every fiber in your being that you're willing to sacrifice for, that you're willing to put in all the work, that you're willing to work 365 days a year to try to give yourself a chance at success. Like, to me, it's everything. Like, having that passion, I just don't feel lost. I feel like I have like a purpose. I feel like I have something, a goal that I can work hard towards. I feel like I can challenge myself mentally and physically. Like, life is so nerfed nowadays and so safe with seat belts and water that comes out the tap. To be out and to be in these rugged, extreme places and to be able to challenge myself to my core, it means everything to me. It's what makes me a better man, makes me a better husband, better at work, better father. Like, it just gives me drive and satisfaction and fulfillment in life. So, I mean, to me, it's everything.
I would second that. Like he said, like Brian Call said, Brian Barney would say it the best. Yeah, man. For me, it's a competition against myself too. It's the ultimate level. I played high school sports. I never went to college sports, but I needed that fix. Like, I need something to push myself and keep my mind, that mental game. It's the ultimate push. There's nothing. I'm not a marathoner or anything. This is my marathons. These are those mountains. This game we play, chasing it. And when I get out there, that's why I think I like the solo game so well. I have my best friend and we hunt together a little bit, or I hunt with my wife a little bit, but the solo hunts, those are the ones that are like, you dig deep. Every decision is on you. It's just like, it mimics life to the fullest, in my opinion. Every decision you make, it's on you. Everything you do, the success is on you. The failure's on you. It's the ultimate competition, and it's man against beast. And those critters out there will whip you every time. So when you succeed, the feeling is I live for it, man. I can't explain the feeling that I get. Not just the kill, but because I'm in tears most of the times. Like, it's that gratifying when I get an animal on the ground. If you saw me by myself, man, like, you guys maybe seen like a film here or there where I'm jacked, but it only captures a little bit of it. I mean, it crushes me when I put a good arrow in something and I get to actually put my hands on it. And 365 days of this, you take the time away from the family, and that's my why, and that's my drive. And I wouldn't be the guy I am if I couldn't get to the mountains and hunt.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is hunting is something that, you know, it's great to have friends that do it, but it's something that you can always do on your own by yourself.
And you can still share it, like do it by yourself, but still have a awesome support group in this community and with others to share it with. Because Sam, you talk about going solo, but you have some hardcore buddies.
I do.
And you all keep track of each other, like, by the day, it seems like.
Oh, yeah, man. There's about 5 of us, and, like, I'm very fortunate in that. Like, everybody always looks for hunting partners, and there's this crew. I went to high school and college with some guys that we started bow hunting. We were all, like, 14, 15 years old, and we all have families now, and I mean, you want to talk about hold each other accountable. We all work out. We all work out separately. We all shoot our bows. When we go to an archery shoot, we'll all enter with each other. You want to talk about, you hear these guys talking crap? My boys, like, it's all competition. We have a Snapchat. I know that sounds funny. We have a Snapchat group. We call it every year. So, like, last year with the 2022 killers, 4 out of 5. Like, who didn't kill an elk? You're the odd man out, right? It's 5 out of 5. I know that sounds silly, but every single thing we do is accountable. There's been multiple times where you'll hit service and you'll get Snapchat, and no kidding, we had 3 guys bowl down, bowl down, bowl down. All 3 of us, different areas, probably scattered over 200 miles. Each one of us, nobody's helping anybody pack because everybody's got their own bowl down on the exact same day, September 18th, September 11th, 2018, and we all hit 3 of us killed bulls on the same evening. I mean, so when you got guys pushing you like that, they might not be right there, but that's that ultimate why too. And we create some competition between. They're guys none of you guys will see on Instagram. They're quiet, nobody knows them, but I run with some studs that I'm very fortunate that I do, and over the years because they've pushed me.
You can still have the vehicle of hunting that allows you to have really close relationships with people who share that same passion. And yet you don't have to hunt together to still have that community. You can hunt solo, like Sam just said, and still have that community. And I think community is something that the modern man is really lacking. Church going isn't like it used to be. The Rotary Club isn't like it used to be. We're all lacking. I found community at a CrossFit gym. They were like they're like family, and then these guys are family too. And it's that community, the part that really drives me. If you don't mind sharing, what's your answer to the question you asked? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I just want to get the words out, right? So, I grew up without parents, really, like no dad. My mom was there, worked at night, I never saw her. I really had no influence in my life. I've kind of made all my own mistakes, to make a long story short. But a lot of hard times. Met my wife when I was like 30. Things seemed to get better, and then I've struggled with that mental game because of the past, and I almost like live in regret sometimes, if that makes sense. But a couple years ago, things just got to be a lot, right? So like I was 30 pounds lighter. I'm not eating. I'm like going to the dark side. I got 2 little baby boys. I don't know how to be a parent, right? So no one does. I just didn't have any to teach me. I learned what not to do. But when I had those kids, and my little brother died the same year my first baby that I lost died. And we lost another one 2 years later. And then we had 2 more baby boys, and all of that, just me and my wife, we were the only people we had to turn to. But I just had a lot of other things, the business, everything kind of dragging me down. So like a year ago, I had to make a change. I gave up anything bad I was doing. One of my buddies, like we call each other best friends. We barely ever talk, but it's like, he's got to get you hunting, man. Got to get you hunting. And my family had an elk camp growing up, but my dad wasn't there. I never got to go. I just heard stories at a reunion or something like that. Like I didn't know anything. I never shot a gun. I never been around it. And then I did it. And I have not slowed down for a second. I changed my nutrition. I changed everything, diet, exercise, built the gym, spent every extra dollar I had to pursue this, sold everything that I thought I didn't need, changed my life. And I no longer am in the dark side. And I just owe it to a lot of you guys and your podcast. And I've never been influenced by anyone. And it was kind of a hard shock to be influenced by guys younger than me, older than me. So what you do, I guess what I'm trying to say is what you do means a lot to a lot of people you probably don't know about. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know what else to say.
It's a great story.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
You're going to make Brian cry now for sure. Man.
One thing I've noticed with
you,
these.
brother.
Oh, sorry, Mark. I was going to say
Mark
one
didn't
thing I
have any
noticed.
parents either.
I didn't have him. My dad was terrible. I was on a path like you. I was lucky that I had some uncles and stuff, so I was exposed to hunting stuff, but I really had to pull myself out too a little bit. Dude, my story didn't pales in comparison to yours, but it's a community that's gonna be like this forever. Just can't let go of it.
I appreciate being able to meet everybody behind me as well. I mean, these guys have each other, and now, I feel like I got some of you guys, maybe not specifically, maybe someday. I mean, it's just, it all means so much. So
appreciate that. Olin showed up in an OG Gritty shirt, Gritty Bowman from way back in the day. and mentioned, you know, how that impacted him, and it makes everything that we do, you know, feel worth it. You know, so big gratitude to all of you as well.
You guys, all these guys up here, and including myself, you wouldn't have been able to squeeze any tips out of Ryan 20 years ago. Any of these guys, right? Everybody up here, I think, that went through a cycle where it was like, oh, I'm keeping my stuff tight, right? My hunting spots, my this, what I know, what I don't know. But we came to a point, I mean, they said it earlier, man, we knew it was time to give some back. And it was weird how we all got together, because we all didn't do it together. We all didn't get together and say, hey, let's start doing it. You know, we all started doing it individually, and we all found each other. And, but we're committed to it. I mean, does it cost us? Heck yeah, does it cost? We lost our bear. Well, it wasn't I came in their second year after, but we lost a great bear spot this year because it's been out there. Too many movies were made, too many features filmed, whatever it was. Too many people told too much. Wasn't me. But that's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes. We'll just go find a new spot. And, but we love it, man. We love giving back. I mean, I've been living at these summits for 4 years, and I can't think of I don't even know what I would do in June if I wasn't doing these things. So I love every minute of it.
Another question?
So
How about something not so heavy?
Yeah. Slightly related. This is my second summit. I was at the 2021 as well. And one of the biggest things that tripped me out a lot coming in is very similarly, I hunted as a kid, but then got away from it and came back. And meeting you guys, it's weird because we hear voices through podcasts or we see you on videos. And the thing that I've heard for 3 years was we're just dudes, you know, we haven't changed. But from our end, do you guys feel what we feel as I don't want to say influencers, because it's not what you guys are to us. You know, you're guides, role models, inspiration. Do you guys struggle to feel that as you've gotten bigger and bigger, and the summit's 40 people now? And as this thing has grown, do you guys kind of, I don't want to say feel pressure, but do you guys feel the weight of the change that you're causing? I mean, we had 25 people, I think Hillary said, come back again to another summit. I mean, there's a reason for that. So do you guys feel that on your end as this platform's grown and you guys have gotten more popular and bigger?
I asked Joel the same question because he went on Rogan, and now he's making all this money and everyone wants his time. You feel the pressure?
I love it, man. I mean, I'm seeking impact. I need enough money to live, but I'm seeking impact. And that's why I come to these things, and it's amazing for me. I learn as much from you as you learn from me. And the impact that we're having, we feel it, and that's what we thrive on. And so I don't see it as a pressure to produce or anything like that, because we know that what we're putting out is what people are seeking, right? Obviously, with all the return people that we have here. And I think that we all just thrive on the impact that we're having, and we see that, I love it. And these things are such a cool, man, can you imagine if we had something like this when we were younger? Oh, yeah, my goodness. It would be so awesome.
Look at all the teary-eyed guys up here. Including myself. I can't believe it, to be honest. But, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how into it they are, I don't know what else is. So
I'll tell you what. So I'm different than all these guys. These guys all have big platforms. Like they started somewhere, right? I'm just a bow hunter. I'm just like you guys. Like that's the way I look at it. And I look up to these guys. Like I sat on Instagram. I saw these guys on Instagram. I listened to Gritty's podcast 6-7 years ago. Gritty Bowman podcast. Listened to all of them. Eastman's Elevated. Listened to all of them. I remember I can almost picture the articles that Brian Barney was putting in Eastman's before he was an Eastman's writer, right? When he was just a bow hunting dude. So I've looked up to him that long. Like me and my buddy Zach, my best friend, we always joke about Barney. He's like, I remember he puts up that 200-inch mule. I remember those pictures when those pictures pop back up. Now it's I remember when I first started seeing Lampers, there's pictures of him that I remember, and it's old days, the Pacific Northwest, high country mule deer, gnarly pictures. He's got shorter beard and stuff. He looks like a little bit of a different guy. I remember I was trained to hunts, and I got into nationals. I got married the weekend of nationals, so I didn't go compete. But I remember there's this Ryan Lampers guy I was hearing about when they got to Wyoming to ours, and they're like, Ryan Lampers is a stud. If you can, he got. And I didn't. That was the first time I heard about him, and I never made it to nationals this year. My wife and I got married, like I said. So I'm just like you guys. I look up to these guys, and now you just gotta. We all do it because we love it. My wife made me get Instagram to post pictures because I grew up with a dad that was a guide, so I was forced to take no tongues hanging out. We want clean blood. You want to do a good representation of the animal. Luckily, I'd had a lot of kills as a kid. All my pictures were high quality. I loved it. And my wife's like, you need to put those pictures up. There's people that want to see like the stuff that can be done. And I mean, they started out when I was 14. If you've seen in my old Instagram picture, I was 14 years old all the way up to 38 now. It's just been hunting my whole life. I'm just a dude. We're all just dudes, and like we're nobody. Like, right? I mean, we just love it. And so everybody introduce themselves. They have something. I'm a bow hunter. Like, that's it, man. And so it's for me now. Don't let it get to your head. If you let it get to your head, you can turn into a real jackass. Mm-hmm. I think that in anything. You look at NFL players, there's a lot of just good dudes out there. There's Logan Wilson. He plays for Cincinnati Bengals. He's a Wyoming boy. He came back home, puts on free football camps at the high school that he played high school football at. You can talk to him at a Hardee's, and he'll sit there and BS with you. So we're just guys. That's why I love going out. Like, if you're with me in my shooting group, I like laugh at it because I don't look. I ask you guys questions. Like, we're just people, man.
I do appreciate the bigger tent, though, Mark.
It took a lot of pressure on Lampers. I said, Lampers, we got to upgrade our game.
Ryan.
Lampers like, we'll just throw up a couple tarps. Everybody will just eat dehydrated meals. We'll just hike everywhere, just live off the land. I'm like, Lampers.
Mark and Amy have actually made this a real event because if Ryan had his way, you guys would be in your bivvy sacks out on the prairie eating dehydrated meals for 4 days.
You guys would be mosquito bitten, sunburn, and you'd definitely be lost.
Yeah.
Because there would be no directions, no waypoints, no nothing. We're just going to, we're going to meet up on this hill about 5.5 miles, see it dark.
It's not it's true.
Communication's great.
I want to ask Ryan because I honestly don't think about it. I don't think about how far my reach is. I try not to think about if I'm making, I just try to do what I'm passionate about doing, and whatever happens, happens. I don't put it in my mind. I don't dwell on whether, how big or how big the stage is or the platform. I just don't. Ryan has been an obscure hermit for years and years and years. And I remember saying something to him one time, probably about his lack of communication skills on a hunt. And he says to me like almost in exasperation, I'm not used to someone being here with me. So yeah, I don't communicate well because I do this by myself and you're kind of crowding me with the camera. So let's just, work through this. So my question to you, Ryan, is you're in the spotlight now. People love you. They appreciate what you do. You are one of the best hunters I think that I've ever personally met. So do you feel you have to feel some pressure, some difference. What goes through your mind? I know you don't care too much what people think.
I don't. Man. So I too, like Sam, I wasn't into social media or anything. I hunted solo most of my life. I just considered myself a hunter that wanted to be successful. And if my family was about the only people that knew about it, which was great. But then Hillary started the old Instagram account and got me rolling on that thing.
Those dang wives.
She threw the first few posts out and she said, you should just share some pictures and stories. And, I fought it in the beginning, didn't really want anything to do with it.
He said his number one goal was to never make a comment on social media.
So I was wrong. I quickly realized there is value and the community opened up a ton. We like to belittle social media a lot. It's easy to do. It's an easy target. But at the same time, it is a great place to meet like-minded folks, good folks. Without it, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have met Brian all those years ago to train to hunt. We wouldn't be hunting partners now. So it's got just as much of an upside with how it can put people together. So, I don't know. I really enjoy it. I'll be the first to admit, like, I enjoy, and it's probably because I don't have to have physical conversations with people, because that's awkward for me. But I can just sit there and give responses to the best of my ability to people who ask questions. And I do like that. I have enjoyed that, even though it does take away a lot of family time at the end of the day. A couple hours at the end of the day is burnt up on doing that. But I've found makes me feel good now. In my 20s and 30s, it would not have made me feel good. I wouldn't have done it. I was very selfish with my time, and I didn't want anybody to know about hunting. Less people on the mountain meant more success for me, most likely. And that's not the case now. Now, you get to a point, I've got daughters, so I want to see a future for them like we've gotten to experience, I want them to have opportunities when they grow up. And without sharing this thing that we've become somewhat good at, and we try to inspire people to do it and realize it exists, without that, I don't know that my daughters are going to have the same opportunities that I had growing up. So it's a long-winded answer, but I don't feel like pressure to do it. I kind of enjoy it, even though, as you guys probably witnessed at this event, I'm pretty awkward in conversation, but I am happy to answer questions for sure.
That's probably the most Ryan has said in one setting since I met him.
Yeah, another question.
I had a question for you guys. My name is Ricky. I'm from California. Last year, I was blessed to have my first baby girl. She just turned a year 2 weeks ago, so I'm stoked on that. And one of the reasons I got the approval from my very supportive wife to come here is, aside from you guys being phenomenal hunters, is she sees and hears how great of fathers you guys are. And watching Sam's Instagram stories of him hunting with his little girl, taking her antelope hunting, and the videos you guys have put out of Ryan taking his daughter's hunting now, which is awesome. So my question is, as a young father, what changes did you guys make when you started a family to help find balance between kind of work, hunting, and trying to be there for your family?
I hear Brian Barney say it all the time, is when you're home, being present. I got 3 boys. Life's about to get real fun. But just being present. There was a time in my life where I was working on the railroad, and I'd come home and I brought that crap home with me. I was a jackass. And I was always getting phone calls. I was like a foreman of a big gang and stuff, and managers calling you, whatever. And I'd bring that home. And so what I really learned from Barney was being present when I'm home.
Yeah, I think it's, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's this balance between trying to set a really good example for your kids and having them chase their passion and do what they love to do, but also spending the time to nurture them and spend the time with them and to nurture them into good human beings. And, I have 2 daughters and they go hunt with me and they're into doing an adventure with dad. And the younger one, she might really fall in love with hunting, or heck, the older one, it might be their thing. But right now they have friends and they have sports and they have school. So my job as a dad is to be able to encourage them in their passions and the things that they love. And so I find balance with, being engaged with my family. We eat a meal together every night at the table where there's no TV. We talk, we chat, and just being engaged, like not bringing problems and issues home. And when I'm with my family, I am with my family. They have my full attention, my full effort. I think it's definitely a tough balance, as it is tough to be away from your family to chase these dreams and chase these hunting aspirations that we have. But I think it's being just as passionate about your family, getting out in adventures in the summertime, being just as passionate as spending this quality time with your family, being just as passionate about raising your daughter in the lifestyle with the attributes that you really admire, that you want them to have. And there's different tools to get there. It doesn't always have to be hunting. It can be My daughter loves basketball, my youngest, and she puts everything into it with her basketball camps and with her teammates and supporting it. So I really encourage that, and I show up and support that. And I'm able to give her insight or give her talks that are like really hit home with her because that's what she loves to do. And so there I'm able to teach her those lessons. So it's definitely not an easy balance, but I think all of us try the absolute best we can with the time that we have to really help, be there for our families and be leaders for our family.
I think you have to adore your wife. I think you can show your kids what a real relationship should be like. And that's really powerful if you two love each other and you really take care of each other. My wife has always encouraged me to start the podcast, to quit my job, to travel, to go to another state if I needed to. She was always there to push me and help me feel like I could do anything. And then I was always there to try to build her up and help her succeed. And that's powerful, I think, for kids because they see what a healthy relationship looks like. They see that what they may want to emulate as they get older. And I think you can start there, and it's pretty easy because you guys fell in love for a reason. You decided to have a family for a reason, so you can just keep building on that. Don't let it slip. Don't let it get away from you.
Or you can raise a son up like Eli that's starting to kick my ass. And the biggest mistake I ever made was bringing him out here. And introducing him to Sam and Barney. He's like, when the first day, he's like, Dad, man, I love shooting with you, but you think I could go with Brian and Sam? I'm like, yeah. And then I hiked with him. He's hiking with me and he sees Barney. I'm like dead meat. He just leaves me. He just leaves me on the side of the road and gone. And, but guys, I love it. I mean, when I could see that, I know that we're doing something right. But he's hyper competitive, hyper driven, but it's not me. I mean, some of it's us, right? But bringing him here, exposing him, letting him go along, those hunts that we film, and he lives for those. To get that boy to go on a 1.5 foot snow with just me, minus 20, whatever it was. But when Brian and Brad were there, and man, he's getting up. They shot a bull. Quick story. We were on this glassy knob. We were freezing our asses off. And we were just waiting and waiting. He was learning a lesson about patience, right? We're looking at a bull that we could shoot. He's right there. But I thought it was the same bull that they were looking at. I'm like, we can't shoot it, buddy. What? Can't get it on camera. And he's just like, and he's just freezing. So then we left a little early to get down the mountain because, we really couldn't do anything. They were still on this bull. So we hear the shot. We hear a shot. Or I actually got a text. They killed the bull. And I'm like, oh, they're good. They don't need our help. And they can do it. And he like, we get a little more down the trail. And he goes, Dad, we should go back. We should go back and help him pack it down. I'm like, oh, hell no. But it was really cool that he was freezing, but he wanted to go back, and help. And I knew we were going to go back with the llamas next day and get the bull, but no,
that didn't happen either.
One trip, but he was ready to go back. But so it's been nice to see him transform. But the key here is you can be the best dad you can be, right? But I feel like you also need to put your kids in some role models. Kids really step up their game when they're around other men that have the same, maybe a little above what your skill set is, maybe a little above. And I've just watched Eli. He's flourished coming to these things. So.
Well, it validates what they're seeing, hopefully, from you. But there does come a point where your kids start to say, is the old man is he on? But when you get him in a setting with like-minded people, then they're like, it shores that up. And I think confidence for kids is so important, for them to know they're headed in the right, and like a family is like the launch pad, right? It's like, you got to have that foundation so they can stand on that and know that rock's not going to fall. And once they feel confident with that, then then everything else is just adding to it. And a team like this just strengthens that whole thing.
You'll be successful because
Go ahead.
I think Mark, Joel, and myself are an exception, but have daughters. Ryan, Sam, Brian, Barney. They all have daughters. Boys are a little harder because, like me, you know, I love hunting with these guys. I love hunting with my dad, but at the same time, like getting to the point now where my oldest is 10, so just doing a little more with them, you know, just because I want that experience with my boys.
So I will say, what you do is what you teach. We've talked about being an example. What you do is what you teach. So what I see is a lot of people that will say one thing, try to teach one thing, but they do something completely different. They're not listening to what you say. They're watching what you do. So what you do is what you teach. And if you follow that principle, you'll change maybe some of the things that you do. And just on a side note, you know, I know what you do for a living. You see a lot of crazy things. So just be careful. Don't let that define you, right? Like I spent 20 years as a cop, and I just never let that define me. It was just something that I did between hunts, right? So
that's saying, I can't hear you because your actions are yelling so loud or something like that.
My wife and I always tell it to our kids, your actions speak louder than your words. And as parents, that's something that we try and do.
I will say, as being the wife, and I think all the other wives that are here can attest to this, is that we were all wives to these guys before these guys all knew each other. And I think that, geez, you guys got me crying. What the heck? This is so
Man,
weird.
This is like emotional.
Heavy.
I think it's just so cool to see a group of men who we've been married 26 years. So we've lived like almost 3 different lifetimes together. Right. And just the transformation that I've seen in my husband with this community, with this group of men, and his ability, one, to ask for help and to wanting to just do something like this. I mean, that transformation is not something that just comes on by yourself. Like Gritty attested, like if we had never done this and the podcast and he'd never done Gritty Films and he'd never gone to that train to hunt, like we would not be sitting here because that was not his momentum in life. And it took having a group of people like this to make him realize, like, this is important information that I need to share. And then in that, the wives, we like benefit from that, you know, and our kids benefit from that because that's not the direction it was going before this. And when all you guys come here and, you know, it's only 3 or 4 days and everybody the last day, nobody wants to go home. Everybody just wants to stay here. We all, every single time we do these, we wake up on the last day and we're all like, oh, it's the last day. You know, we're all sad about it because it's really important to have this camaraderie in your life. And we realize that because we basically live like a single we lived as like a single unit for over 20 years of our marriage, you know, having our nuclear family. And then Ryan had like one friend and he didn't like any of my friends. So he never hung out with any of them. So, you know, now it's like we actually have friends together. And I think that's what your wife is hinting at, is like, these might be people that I would actually be friends with. And that's the most important thing. And that's what we want to come across as. Ryan, if you ever call Ryan a celebrity or an influencer or something like that, he will like yell at me. And Ryan doesn't yell very often. He'll just be like, no, like, don't use that swear word around here, right? Because he's just, but you guys know him. So, and that's the other thing, people will come up to me and just start telling me their entire medical history. And like, I've never met them before. And I'm like, and he'll be like, wow, people sure tell you a lot of stuff. And I'm like, well, because they feel like they trust us and they know us from this. But when you come to this, you see like we all have struggles and no marriage is perfect. No relationship is perfect. Even though Gritty and Suzanne have a perfect marriage, don't like look at theirs. No, I'm just kidding. But like nobody's perfect and we all struggle. You know, Ryan and I have businesses together. You really want to see if your marriage can last? Start a business together. It's really hard to do. It's a struggle because you're different. You have different like ideas, ways you want to go about stuff, you know, and this is no different. So the whole reason that we've been able to do this is because of these people that give us input, that are kind, that are loving, that would have our backs in a second. And we don't have to talk to them every day. We just know that. So
find old men for friends. They'll be father figures to you.
Like being a girl dad, I wanted a girl. I wanted a girl more than anything because I wanted her to be able to whoop all the boys' asses. And luckily, my wife is uber competitive, probably more competitive than me. This will get me choked up now, but she's my rock. Like, and having that mom that has that, she's got so much grit, and she's an introvert. I'm the Hillary in the relationship, and my wife Peyton is the Ryan. Like, she's quiet, she sits back, she's chill, but like she pushed me to quit my job, do what I'm doing now, to do stuff like this. I mean, like when Ryan called me a year ago, it's like, do I want to go? Like, can I hang with these guys? You know, she's like, go with it. I've had opportunities with Stone Glacier that I question. You know, it's like I didn't know if I was like worthy enough, and she pushed me to do that stuff. As much confidence as I have, you still check yourself. You don't want to be, you know, there's a fine line between confident and cocky, and she's the one that's pushed me to do a lot of stuff. All that being said, I had this little girl, and I don't push anything on her, but I show her everything that I love. And she might only shoot 3 arrows out of her bow, and that's it. Like, that's all she wants to do. But, like, I've told the guys, like, I was sitting there, I'll be cooking dinner, and I leave the back door open, and I'll hear, she's 5 years old, and she'll be out shooting her bow by herself. Like, you can't write that up. Or, like, I mean, that all that's on TV, I'll come home, and I did a Stone Glacier film recently, and I bet she's watched that buffalo hunt probably 40 times. Like, every time I get up, I'll get home from the gym in the mornings, and she's up early. She's just like her dad. She'll be up. I'll get home from the gym 5:50. She's 5 years old, and she'll have a TV on. She'll have her glass of milk because I always set a glass of milk out for her. She'll have her glass of milk, and she'll be riding the line at 5:30 in the morning on a Tuesday morning before she goes to preschool. Like, so if you don't think you're having an impact on your kids, if you got your 5-year-old that's up, or like the mule deer hunt I did 2 years ago, she's 4. And she'd be watching that hunt. She tells kids at daycare, Dad, this kid at daycare, his dad saw you hunt. Like, you don't think you're making an impact? Dude, everything you do, everything you say is, and I'm watching this little 4 and 5-year-old, and she digs it. She goes on my backpack. She's getting big now. I tell her she's got to walk up the hills. But I've rode her. If you guys do watch me on Instagram, you've seen her on my top pack. She rides my top of every hill, every shed hunt. I don't leave her. Shed hunting is like it used to be my jam. 400, 500 horns a year. Like, that's all I used to eat, sleep, breathe. I paid for some of her doctor bills when she was born with shed money. But now it's just like it's fun. Like, I'm gonna go pick things. Like, I'm not taking away family time from that. I'm loading her up in my pack. She goes with me on shed hunts. I started baiting bears strongly because she can go with me and bait bears. She didn't slope hunting bears with me, but I can take her and we can watch bears together. Like, so yeah, that's how I changed. You asked how we changed. That's how I evolved. I saved the whitetail hunts I don't put in for late season Wyoming rutting mule deer hunts anymore because I can put in for an extra whitetail buck tag. I can do that with her. Like, I completely quit putting in for mule deer tags, which I absolutely love, so I can whitetail hunt in November with my daughter. That's how I've structured it so that I don't need another mule deer, right? Like that, I'm going to get a hunt general mule deer somewhere else. I can go do that. And I would rather go hunt whitetail on the edge of some field and rattle and get her to see that excitement with me than. So I have evolved as much as I don't want to like admit it. My hunting has changed. I still have my hunts where I go dig, and I can't wait for the day that I don't think she's too far out, honestly. Another 3 years, if I don't push it hard and I do it right, I think I'll be taking on some wild adventures. She's seen bears at 15 yards. She's had bears stand up and look at us both while she's running my iPhone. She's seen things through a headlamp and bears standing on a rock looking at me this year that 5-year-olds haven't seen. And I don't know if it's the right way to parent. Just like the doc was saying, like, you don't know if you're doing it right. You're just doing what you do. And I got a girl that's going to be tough. And she's great.
One of my favorite videos of Lainey recently on Instagram was like, you're just like in the driveway and here she comes on her horse. You're like, what are you doing? She's like, you're like riding your horse? She's like, yeah. And she's like 5, but she's just riding this full grown horse down the driveway. Like, this is a normal everyday occurrence, you know.
It's Wyoming,
and we had her last year. She's not afraid of nothing.
Nah,
she's tough. Yeah, she'd run all these other kids right out of energy for sure.
I have some older children. I'm about to have them all move out here soon. It's getting close. But I would say one thing I'd throw in there among all this with kids, and you've got a ways to go, but take away the phones. I mean, I can't imagine like the pipeline of garbage flowing into their brain from this device that they're not ready for, they're not old enough to handle, that's just flowing, influencing. And I thought, well, I'll do that. I'll set that example. I'll do it right. This is a really, really tough thing to compete against. It's hard enough to raise kids as it is, but then you give this to their hand, and you get this pipeline of filth going in their brain. Then you have a much harder hill to climb to instill your values and to teach them and to get them ahead. So don't let them have phones, man. They don't need them. I didn't have them. They'll be 18, and before you know it, they'll get their own phone for the first time, access to the internet, all that. For me, we just went cold turkey a few years ago, and they haven't had a phone since, and it was the best decision we ever made. We also took them out of public school for 2 years, and they've been in homeschool. Best decision we ever made. We just circled the wagons, brought them home, and just took away the garbage. And as soon as the garbage was gone, things just fixed themselves.
Like going back to the actions speak louder than words. So my boys, damn. So they were watching the Gritty film this morning. And my wife texted me, "Don't chew gum while you're on camera." So, but they're out there watching it, and just like Sam said, I do all I can to get those boys out.
You know what I think is cool is that you're seeing that what Brian Barney said, he mentioned passion early on. You're seeing passion to the nth degree right now because we care so much about this and you guys care so much about this that it's awesome. And that's the community we want.
Did anybody have a less heavy question?
Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about arrow setups or
yeah, anything on Gaia or whatever?
Does somebody have a Google Earth question?
So first of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for everything you've done. Answering questions to just having fun with us. It's a good community. And, I want to ask you, each one of you, what's your favorite part about this event? Mine personally is a struggle. I love the hard stuff. I like being pushed by these people next to me, my peers. And, I came here 21. Ryan got to hang out with me at the back of the pack, hiking up the crazies. But I've gotten better because of that. I put myself through hard stuff since. And it's been good. And so what's your favorite thing about this stuff?
My favorite thing is the brand new release that I got from Joel Turner called the Stan On X that has like a click in it. What was it? The On X, right? Stan On X clicker. You should buy one. Also,
money.
My favorite.
I second that.
My other favorite part was beating Brad in the shoot.
That was my favorite
yesterday.
part too.
He didn't beat me. Look at the final score, homies.
I beat you yesterday. Let's be specific. And that was great.
I also crushed him on the mountain run. So
I don't know what he's talking about. Who else has this comment?
I would say, I got to shoot with Chad and his wife. You guys inspire me. I'm just some little redneck kid from Idaho. All right. We'll get it together. I'm just a young kid, I get to be lucky to hang out with these guys, be a part of what Ryan does, Hillary does. And then you guys, I see you, and I was lucky as a kid. I had my dad do everything with. And then you guys tell the stories where, you didn't have that. And as you guys inspire me, Chad went, 8 miles without a complaint in the world. And I complain about a little hurt knee here and there. And he's got a prosthetic leg crushing everyone. I'm like, buck up, you sucker. So, you guys.
Must be the Benadryl.
Yeah.
Yeah, my eyes are watering. I'll go. Like I said, for me, it's like I like like meeting everybody, and I like seeing. I was saying, Ryan, we were talking up on the deck, and I was like, it's cool, this group of dudes, like, there, you guys are hardcore. Like, whatever you think about yourself, you don't look, you got these aspirations, like, you guys are doing it. Like, I hear these stories of where you guys are going, like, Owen, like, I know some of the spots he's going, and I'm like, you guys are doing it. Like, it's cool to see you're so driven, and you want it so much more to learn. Like your guys' stories in Idaho in the rain, like, you guys are doing it. You guys are hardcore. Like, you just give yourself some credit, because I'm sitting here looking at you guys and I'm getting inspiration. I'm shooting against the guys in my group, and I had some shooters, man. I've had to, like, step up my game because you guys were pushing me to shoot better at my targets. Tom yesterday, man, he was on a roll. I'd go to, like, he'd go in front of me and 12 ring it, and I'm like, he's got bright yellow fletch, so I had something to aim at. But I'm like, this guy's, it's an inspiration. And just like that, this is only the second summit I've helped these guys out, but, like, the first time you pull up to a summit, you get, like, butterflies in your stomach, right? Ryan Lampers is standing on the deck, long hair just blowing in the wind. And you're like, holy smokes, that's Lampers. Or Brian Barney gets out of the truck. I'd never met Brian Barney. Last year he gets the summit, and I just met Lampers, and it's like, it's a shock to me too, guys. I told you, I'm just one of you guys. And I meet Livesay. I've heard his voice on every podcast. I'm like, this is the guy. This is not what I pictured, but this is the guy. but no, like, so it's the shooting day for Brian Barney, or it's the shooting day. We're getting ready to load our packs. This is at last year's summit, and I haven't met Barney. And Lampers goes, hey, Sam, he goes, you and Barney in the same group together. He's like, good luck. And I'm like, I've never shot in front of him. I damn sure don't want to shoot with Barney. And I'm like, all right, iron sharpens iron. Like, I'm game. And Barney pulls up, and Lampers goes, hey, Brian, this Sam was talking crap, saying he could beat you. That's the. It wasn't like, hey, Brian, Sam, Brian, like that. That was the first conversation. So I think just being around all of you guys and, like, being up with these guys, like, there's no, like, one thing that's my favorite. It's just, it's this. It's being able to cut up with guys, shoot stories, talk about families, go in depth on hunting, shoot against guys like Chris and Tom and Josh and Phil, like, guys that could shoot. Like, that was awesome to see how good you guys know your equipment and shoot. That's me. That's for me.
Yeah, I think it's definitely similar. It's being able to share an adventure and share an experience. That's like, we all love this so much. It's like to be able to go on these hikes and put on the miles, and to be able to go shoot these 3D targets and do an overnight in glass. It's like the funnest thing for me. And it's, I don't have too many friends that I have cold beers with. Like, I have friends I go do things with, and Ryan and Hillary and everybody involved has cultivated an entire experience, an adventure, and we get to share it with each other and have these in-depth conversations. Like, I don't hold court or talk in front of a bunch of people. It's like I have to get up here a couple times a summit, but really it's like these one-on-ones or these small groups of people that I'm able to have conversations with. So I think for me, that's my favorite part about these summits.
For me, it's easily, like, the friendships. Been to a bunch of these. I mean, a lot of really cool people. And, like, I've kept up in touch with a lot of people over here at the summits. And every year we just start chatting during hunting season, sharing photos, emailing back and forth. Hey, what's up? You're going to be here. I've stayed at people's houses from the summit. Like, I'm just randomly in a state. They hit me up, say, hey, anytime. But we do it all the time. Talking to a bunch of people here, inviting them down to Vegas. Like, you guys want to come down to Vegas and shoot some rifles? Let's come to Vegas and shoot some rifles. Like, I'm all for the friendships you make here, talking about these small little stories with people. Like, I want to hear their struggles when we're talking about, oh yeah, that snowstorm that one year in Idaho, I was there as well. Like, that's so cool to, like, hear how they go through a hunt, talk with me as well, and just, like, exchange numbers, exchange emails. Like, this is a community, and I love being a part of it and just seeing everyone's excitement, how we all just love the resource, love the struggles, love the mountains, and it's like, this is home. It's like to be with these people.
Joel, favorite part?
Oh, my favorite part is when I'm out here busting your chops and you are allowing me to affect you, and you're nervous and you're punching the crap out of the trigger. Then we have a little chit chat, right? And then my favorite part is when we go out there and you're now shooting with control and you're using me, right? Before, you did not want to shoot in front of me. Now you want me next to you because now you're using me to up your determination. That's my favorite part.
before Livesay goes, I'm just going to throw in, we all beat him on the course this weekend. So,
oh, me? Actually, that's not true. But, man, so I get a chance to, I'm blessed that I get to be here from the very beginning moment to the very last target getting pulled. And, a lot of people think, man, that's a lot of work for you. Dude, it just, I don't think I'd do anything else. And, I got to shoot with Taylor and Matt. And so, I always try to get people to change groups. In the event biz, I'm like, Ryan, we got to get people to go in another team. And every time we ask, nobody wants to. Nobody wants to, because after the first day, you're almost bonded. It's like, dang, they're going to start sleeping in the same teepees and shit. But it's cool to see that develop. And guys, last week, Brad, this ain't no different. Brad was crying like a baby last week too. And I'm starting to worry. We
missed the
boys. And then this week I got some tears. It's just fun to connect with all you guys. And, we're all serious. I know you guys all think that, man, I don't want to bug them. I don't want to, guys, you spend a lot of your treasure to come here. And even more important than treasure is time. That's what we're here for. We wouldn't do this if we didn't want to stay in touch. Now, maybe you don't want to send us things like, hey, I'm going to Colorado. Where should I go and how should I do it? Maybe not that much big of a question. But
Livesay will give you pins.
I'll give you all Lampert's pins. But seriously, reach out to anybody here on this table that you want to afterwards, right? It's really what we love doing it. It's not something we hate. It's something we kind of do. So that comes with it. It's part of the game.
It's true, but I think I have, I don't know, like 50,000 unopened emails. So I may or may not get back to you. Usually people get a hold of Ryan to get a hold of me.
Now me.
Yeah, I get a lot of those emails.
So-
And I'm like,
I'm terrible.
Anybody
Terrible.
has my
Don't take
phone
it
number or
personal.
email, they don't even bother. They say, hey, will you tell Brian this?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, as you guys know, I work in the emergency department. So I'm seeing people shooting their arrows into the dirt. And we've all shot arrows into the dirt. And some of us still are.
And trees.
But the problem is some people don't even care about picking up those arrows. Well, I wasn't going the way you guys think I'm going. No, I'm serious. I'm taking care of a lot of people who I'm seeing the end stage of their whatever. Okay. And when I'm talking figuratively about them shooting arrows, they don't want to learn to shoot at something besides the dirt. So they're not learning from why that arrow went into the dirt. They don't care if somebody's trying to get them to shoot better. They're just done. And what we got here is everybody shooting their arrows in an upward trajectory and searching for that target. So you may not be unable to shoot arrows into trees occasionally or the dirt, and you may not be shooting the trajectory you want right now, but we're all wanting the target. We're wanting the 12 ring. And that's the positive energy that I can't help but just feel. I mean, it's just so different to feel that here. So I'm cheating. I get my batteries refilled here more than I give. I firmly believe every time I come here, it's like I'm a way better person leaving here than I came.
Well, and you're way broker when you leave here too.
A little bit.
It's that Onyx release. It's expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, everything. I mean, these guys have spoke to it really well. Obviously the friendships we all have up here, that's one thing. Meeting, people from past events, meeting new people every year. It almost seems like it's 50-50 at each event now. We get return guys and new. So whether it appears as such or not, I do really appreciate, shaking everybody's hand and meeting new folks. And, sometimes in the beginning, I'm not the best at remembering names, but I try to, and hopefully by the end, I've got everybody down. But, I just love everything that this has turned into. Hill and I, when we started it, we knew what we were hoping it would be. We wanted to kind of build on the community that we had at Train to Hunt. And, we feel like it's gotten to that point. Like it's definitely got there. And for us specifically, it's much more than what we had even over there when we were doing it. So, we get just as much as hopefully you guys get when you come here and you get to hear from these really incredible presenters. I hope you guys, like I want to speak to Joel Turner for a quick second. I think I was one of those guys like, holy smokes, I'm not the best shooter. I punched the crud out of the trigger for years, but and when you shoot in front of Joel, it's intimidating as heck, especially for somebody like me. But now I want Joel standing right next to me. I tried to like selfishly keep Joel by my side the entire, so I would shoot better throughout the course because I know my scores would go up. But hopefully all you guys, understand what you got from having Joel here. Not just on the shooting, the form and the execution and all that, but he's a man of many talents. And you saw that with the bison breakdown and all things. An incredible educator. So having him at these events has been a huge plus, and hopefully you guys see that.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah. Nate from Idaho just had a question, kind of going back to how this is a 365-day pursuit, having to balance things with your other life. Curious from maybe anyone who wants to share like any sacrifices you've had to make, whether that's promotion at a job, moving somewhere, maybe another hobby that you really love but didn't love quite as much as hunting. That way you can maintain that balance with your family or elsewhere in your life.
You guys can go, but I'll go first, I guess. I was making a lot of money at the railroad. Like I had great benefits. I had, kind of could do what I want. I could run machinery. I could weld. I could go work labor. Didn't matter. I was making a ton of money, great benefits, but I didn't get to do what I loved hardly at all. Because when I came home, those 6 days I was home from the road, I wanted to spend with my family. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go hunt very much because I want to be with them. And now this has allowed me to, taking a massive pay cut and just working harder. The family relationship, as a whole, just following my passion for hunting and being in the outdoors, but then also exchanging that passion to hopefully my boys as they grow up and they can see that, oh, dad's following his dream. And I hope they do the same.
Yeah, we made big changes back in the day. And that was thanks to my wife, Hillary here. We made a change of location. We were in a place where I had steady work, family business, all things were good, good, clean living. But the environment that we lived in wasn't that great. The coast, traffic, standing in line just felt like a daily thing where hours of your day are always sitting in line or, driving somewhere. And so, we made a huge commitment to come over here to Montana. And for me, that was a big leap, for her, not so much. She could work anywhere, but, to start a few new businesses that would allow us to be here, to be able to raise our girls here was a big step. And I don't think it could have gone any better. Really happy with that move. And it's allowed us to, again, like these guys have said, spend a lot more time with them, work from home. I hunt a lot, so I'm definitely still on the road, but I'm not on the road driving and just coming back angry. So somehow, some way, we put ourselves in a better place in the state of Montana.
Yeah, I'm just going to say a quick thing about sacrifice. If you can't sacrifice something, then you just don't want it bad enough. I went to medical school. You do hard things in your life if you want something really bad, and sometimes you sacrifice, sometimes people you love, time, a lot of money. But in the end, it can pay off. So I think our move, it was just Ryan just couldn't see what else he could do. And it takes somebody else sometimes to just force you to make a change. And once we made the change and you get through that hard part of what that means to give something up, that's all I think more times than not, it turns out good. But you have to take the leap. And, you know, Ryan used to make a joke about, I just jump off cliffs without nets. And he kind of stands at the top and there's no net, you know, he's like, what are you doing? And as I'm running past him, jumping off the cliff. So, you know, you have to have a good balance, I think, too, in your partnership. And if one person's not daring enough to make it, the other person might be overly daring. And sometimes that overly daring person might be just what you need, because they're going to force you to make an uncomfortable change. Sometimes that's just what you have to do, you know, like giving up a bunch of money, giving up a family business and steady, you know, whatever. I think you just have to, you know, life is so freaking short. When we got to be almost 50, I was just like, we are not getting any younger. Like, we have to make a change, because, you know, as people get older, they get harder to change. So that's what I would say about sacrifice.
I left this hunting summit last year. This is about the exact same date. I went home and gave my 2-week notice to a job that I'd been at for 20 years. Had a real good talk with Brian Barney on the deck of the cabin that we were at last year. Last morning of the summer, me and him were drinking coffee, and I'd been kicking around an idea to do a life change. My wife had been telling me that I needed to change for about a year, but it's hard to walk away from 20 years doing the same thing, getting a steady paycheck, carrying the insurance, providing. And I had a good conversation with Barney, and I literally went home, worked a week, gave a 2-week notice, and walked away from a job July 18th, 11 months ago now. And it was because of a community like this. You want to talk about strength and what it did to me too. And it takes some guys like iron sharpens iron. I said that yesterday. I was like, yeah, some of you guys saw me hike out, and I told my crew, I was like, I'm going to catch Barney because that guy's a beast. And just that push and those sacrifices. Yeah, I dropped a job. I didn't look at it like that. I mean, yeah, I quit team roping. When I had a family, I used to team rope quite a bit, rodeoed quite a bit. Took all that. Hunting was more important than any of that. I hunted, obviously, but when I wasn't hunting, I was rodeoing. There was all sorts of little things. I was doing rode snowmobiles, but then the family came, and then it was like, I need to pick one hobby. So yeah, those were little gives, right? But now you get around stuff like this, and you learn how much you love something. And Barney opened my eyes, some stuff. Lampers opened my eyes. I mean, his story is exactly the same. He quit a job that he had been forever, but they moved. I didn't have to move, thankfully. And to create something that you love and chase a lifestyle that you love, and boy, oh boy, it opened my eyes in the last 11 months what's out there, as long as you're willing to work hard.
Can you imagine giving up hunting? Right? So it's the pinnacle. It's what we're supposed to be doing anyways. Right? So all this stuff, when we talk about sacrifice and all those things, those are all things that are not hunting. Those are all things that can be sacrificed, and we can survive past that. Hunting is the top. It's our compass. It's what we do. It's our everything. It gives us this purpose. It's what we're supposed to be doing anyways. So if it's not directed at hunting, and if it's affecting your hunting and your family, because those two things are synonymous, get rid of it, right? Get rid of it. Do what you love, and make sure that is following your primal nature and how we are built and what we're supposed to be doing. We dance around this issue all the time. Hunting is at the top because that's how we survived all these years. So all the other stuff is fluff, right? Family and hunting are your directions in life. Everything else, pitch it. Let's go hunting.
Wow.
You know, I've been on a lot of podcasts and people talk to me. It's like I was on Cody Rich's entrepreneur podcast, and people always ask me, man, you're hunting a lot. You're this, you know, and when do you decide? I get all these, well, if I just work 10 more years, I'm going to retire and I'm going to do, no, you're not. You're not. Matt and I had this conversation a little bit yesterday on the mountain. Man, I just got to do this. I just got to do that. If I just get over this hill, then I'm on easy street. Guys, I would rather work in my 70s than wait till I'm 60 to retire. This is me. This is my personal advice. When I moved to Montana 8 years ago, my wife, very similar to Ryan's story, she forced the deal. I'm an entrepreneur. I will not stop. I'm building businesses. I'm buying businesses. I'm creating nightmares for myself, right? And I'm just driven to like my bank account balance. How much money I got? How much money I got? When I get this much, she's like, honey, how much do you need? I'm like, I don't know, but we're not there. She goes, we're done. Our marriage was on the rocks. I mean, it was a whole story. I mean, it was tough, right? She goes, we're done. We're moving in 1 year. She gave me 1 year to sell off everything we had, businesses, all of my entanglements. God, if I could have done that 10 years before I did it. Guys, you just got to, I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm telling you to be purposeful. You're never going to have enough. There's never a number. But I mean, McDonald's is paying $25 an hour. You can work there till you're 80 now. So don't wait until it's your perfect setting or your perfect this. It's never going to be perfect. So, you know, man, I really hate seeing those guys that really say when I'm 65, Joe and I just had this conversation. The minute he could get out of he was out. He's ready to throw it out and get it on. And I think that's my biggest advice is don't wait until the time is perfect because it's never going to be perfect.
Gary Vee said one time, would you rather be smiling and laughing in a Toyota Camry or crying in a Porsche? You know, you could have that job where you're an accountant making all this money, whatever it is, a doctor. No, Hillary's, you know, but you could have this,
you know,
eternity of school, tons of debt, and this lifestyle, right? Or maybe do something with a little less money that you love. And what's that thing like? If you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life. That kind of thing. Look, I just money's never been a huge driver for me. It's freedom. Freedom is what I want. Money allows me to have a little more freedom. So there's that. But at the end of the day, I just think there's so much more that people are capable of without chasing the almighty dollar, without having a big bank account. Be content with less in that regard and have more time. And that's kind of how I structured my life. When it came time to roll the dice, I've rolled the dice. And I've always felt like, you know, what's the worst that could go wrong? Okay, so I fail. I can always go back to what I was doing before. That door almost never closes. It's always there for me. But inevitably, when you make the jump and you commit, you're like, I don't want to go back. Like, I'll find a way. And I think you do. But it takes that jump.
We were talking about electrical. He was asking me about, should I buy this business? Should I buy this? And he was looking at, you mind if I say this? He's like, I'm going to buy this business, and if I work there for this long, I can have X. I said, oh, no. No. You buy the business, you get somebody else to run that business, and then you do what you want to do. And I don't know if it moved the needle, but don't buy yourself a job. Don't buy a business or buy a company that I always give if you're a personal trainer is the worst job on the planet Earth. You only make money when you're training somebody. And your reputation is driving it, right? When you're a personal trainer at the gym, you make $100 an hour. If you're not there, you're not making money. Think about things that you always hear passing, all the buzzwords, right? But you need to create, you need to wrap your life around things that keep rolling, whether you're there or not. And not entirely, but where they can function and they can roll without you. And once you start that, then you'll start picking up another diversification, and once you learn how to do it, you just start stacking that all up and you start creating these multiple sources of revenue. That's how I've built my life. And then none of them are huge, but they all add up. And I think a lot of us at this table take that approach. And, but that's my advice on that too, is like, it was a great conversation. We're sitting around the fire and, he was like, man, if I just worked there for 10 years, I'll be set. I'm like, how about you don't work there and you're still set? So
thank you, everybody, for being here.